This kid's got ridiculous power.
The rookie strikes again.
Welcome to the show.
And welcome back to another episode of the AstrosFuture podcast here on the Believe Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Price, also known as AstrosFuture. You can find my work at AstrosFuture.com. Find me on X at AstrosFuture.
I'm your co-host, Kenny Van Doren. You can follow me or find me on X at the Vandalorian.
So even though we got a little taste of minor league baseball over the weekend, this is going to be our minor league preview. The rosters are out. We know where everyone's going. We saw Cam Smith made the major league roster. We know exactly which prospects are going where, which ones maybe got left off the roster, either due to some early injuries or something like that. So Kenny and I wanted to get together, do a preview, look at all the teams' rosters, point out some guys that we're looking forward to seeing, but then also maybe some potential breakout prospects or even some guys that we think it's kind of their make it or break it year. So we'll start off before we get. Well, actually, no. We'll go straight to Sugarland. We'll talk about Corpus in a little bit. But Kenny, I'm gonna let you start us off. Well, who's a pitcher for the Sugarland Space Cowboys that got assigned there that you're looking forward to seeing this year?
Man, it's a tough one because a lot of times when you look at the Space Cowboys roster, just any AAA roster in general, you run into a lot of former major leaguers, some guys that are maybe 4A players, not necessarily in that prospect category, but there's some good arms down there. You got AJ Bluebaugh, Aaron Brown, who's kind of a sneaky one, Colton Gordon, a name that a lot of people will remember, who I guess you can still consider a prospect, but Tyler Ivy's back in baseball, so that's a fun one in that reliever starter role, whatever he kind of mixes in at. Rhett Koba, Jaden Murray, there's just a bunch of good arms that over the last couple of years that you were hoping would break through. You wanted to see them kind of just pitch in the majors. But I'm just a sucker for this guy right now. I still believe in it. I think the change in arm slot and the velocity behind it is going to work well as a reliever. And I'm still on Misael Tamarez. I'm on the train. I think you could also lump him into that make or break year because I don't think they'll give you a real long leash as being a reliever after you kind of, failed as a starter. And that's fair to say, it just didn't really work out. But if he, continues as a reliever, just that velocity, change of arm slot, just the way he pitches too, with a lot of fire behind him, I think it will work out as a reliever. But I don't think that's one a lot of people are expecting me to say.
Yeah, that would be really good to see because he was kind of like an up and comer that kind of came out of nowhere a couple of years ago, had a real big year in Fayetteville, put up some good strikeout numbers, got up to AAA, and then it just seemed like the last year or two his kind of command has fallen off and got moved to the pen. But we've seen guys be successful taking that move to the pen, and Sugarland's going to need it this year with some of the guys they had last year that are moved on or are now up with the Astros. So yeah, he'll get a really good opportunity. I do think he pitched once over the weekend in relief, maybe Saturday. I think he threw a scoreless inning, if I remember right. But I'll go with another arm that and this is one most people are probably looking forward to, and kind of another high power arm. But Miguel Ulola, one of the Astros' top pitching prospects, ridiculous strikeout numbers, ridiculous hit numbers, which I always think is a good indicator of how good of a pitcher you are in the minors. The strikeouts are, you love to see him. You love to see a guy who doesn't allow the contact, right? Racks up the strikeouts, which he did last year. But I think I want to look it up right now, but I think he allowed 50 hits or something in 70 and 80 innings. So it was something insane like that, where it's man, they just can't hit this guy. And this was in in AA. I mean, and then making it up to AAA. He had his first or second start. I think it was the PCL championship game. We were there.
Mm-hmm.
Got some run this spring. I'm pulling up his stats now because I didn't want to be wrong. All right, in 130 innings last year, he allowed 74 hits. That's insane. So the fact that guys just can't hit him on top of the stuff, he's got the high 90s fastball, not necessarily the 99 or 100, but he's got kind of that sneaky angle to him that makes it a lot harder to see. But really looking to see what he could do. The Astros pitching staff, I know it's early, but they're looking strong right now. Ulola kind of figures as maybe that guy that could come up early in the season if they had a need, and he's pitching well.
The identity of the Astros system has been those bargain international pitchers that have just come through over the years. And, we can maybe say Misael Tamarez walked so Miguel Ulola could run. I mean, they had the same kind of, like you mentioned, with the fastball angle and maybe the comps to Christian Javier just in the minor leagues. And that was a big thing with Misael Tamarez. Everyone was watching him pitch this is Christian Javier. But with Miguel Ulola too, the 163 batting average against. And sometimes I don't really look or take too much stock in ERA in the minor leagues. It's just not really a number worth over analyzing, but 116 whip is great to see. It continues to get, as he moves up the system, it continues to drop. And that's a good thing for Miguel Uola, maybe a guy that might get into a little bit of harder contact at times, just with how hard he's pitching and maybe just dotting up the zone a lot. But that is still a really good number to see. And just, incredible. Like scouts will tell you, look at whip. That's the one they want to see, especially just, as they near the major leagues. And Miguel Uola is just a perfect spot for that. And, he did leave the spring breakout start with an injury, but he's on the roster, which is a good sign.
Yeah.
Just kind of moving forward with him, that he's not really dealing with any of those issues.
Yeah, and another guy that's actually had a little bit of injury this spring and is on the roster, hasn't played yet for AAA. So on the hitting side, Jacob Melton's the guy to watch for me. I know we talked about him in spring. He was one that we hoped that if he had a big spring, maybe he had an opportunity to break camp. And I think the opportunity was there. We saw it with Cam Smith, had a big spring and he got that chance. Melton's right behind him. So hopefully he didn't play over the weekend, but he's still on the roster. They didn't make any IL moves, which makes me think whatever it is not something that's going to affect him long term. But we talked about him a lot. We know that the power speed combination, the high potential he has, and the Astros are in the need of some more outfield help if he can have a good year and then force his way up or even be ready for next year. But really excited to see what he can do in his first prolonged stint in AAA. Hopefully he's healthy and we can see him here soon.
Hey, last time, and this is a joke, I'll preface that. Last time there was like an issue with like this, Justin Dearden got released. That was like the same kind of trend, but that's probably not the case here with a guy like Jacob Melton. Guy that jumps off the page to me, and it's not really just hitting wise, but it might be just position versatility. And he stuck around in Major League camp a lot longer than I expected. I thought he was on the outside looking in of non-roster invitees, but that's Colin Price. And he's been on the show with us before. A couple years ago, he broke his leg on a foul ball. Early on in his pro career, he kind of had some issues with that, just fouling pitches off his leg, and I think he just like fractured something. But 6th round pick back in 2022, and if you don't know Colin Price, he's 6'5", 225 pounds. That's not the average size of a catcher. There were some questions, if he would stick at the position, but it's been working well that he's sticking there. But there may be some questions if he moved to first base, which he's played before, or even center field, which he played at Mercer. But I think him sticking around in Major League camp for as long as he did, and sometimes that's just, need catchers around, but they'll trim rosters when they need to, just bring up guys when they need guys in the Grapefruit League. But he stuck around a good amount of time. And I think with that versatility, I think that'll get him places. He has very nice exit velocity, is a good average there from what the player development account posts. And you'll see that more with Baseball Savant at AAA. But I still think there's holes in the swing and just the offensive approach. I don't think you're going to expect a guy to have like a 750 OPS in the major leagues or better. But I think that versatility and what he brings to the catching position is intriguing.
Yeah, and I think it says a lot that that he's in AAA with kind of limited time in AA. And I think it was 2 years ago where he started out in Nashville and maybe ended up with that injury and had, like you said, really good exit velocity. He was hitting the ball hard, and just the numbers didn't really back it up. So that's another one that I'm looking forward to seeing. But we'll finish off with the AAA roster, and we're going to move to the Corpus Christi Hooks AA. And as I was putting this together, some of the stuff to talk about, and Kenny and I talked about right before we came on, but the pitching staff, I think, is really, really going to be one that's fun to watch. And it's a lot of Dana Brown picks in there, and a lot of guys that have kind of made that rise over the last couple of years. And the one I'll talk about, once again, we're going with that. If we do the obvious guys here, that's fine too, because we need to talk about them too. But like Ethan Petco, right? Minor league pitcher of the year, 6th round pick a couple of years ago. At 21 years old last year, pitched across 3 different levels and was phenomenal. Started out in Fayetteville, struck out 63 in 46 innings, 2.31 ERA. Made a quick stop in Asheville, Hitters Park, but had really good strikeout numbers. Then finished off the season in AA with a 2.36 ERA. Finished with 125 strikeouts in 96 innings. That's 11.7 per 9 innings, 3.47 ERA overall. Like I mentioned, my Astros minor league pitcher of the year really flew up the ranks, kind of from a guy that probably wasn't even in a top 30 to now he's pretty consistently, I think, in a top 15. And he's going to be 22 this year. Let's see, I don't even know if he's 22 yet. He's 22 now, but this will be his 22-year-old year. Really excited to see what he could do, take that next step up to AAA. And, we got Hunter Brown in the 5th, we got Spencer Arrighetti in the 6th, and now you got Ethan Petco coming from the 6th round again.
Yeah, the thing about the Corpus roster is not a lot of offensive firepower. We talked about that right when these rosters came out, Jimmy. It's not something that's going to be heavily influenced by just home runs or power, and that's a tough ballpark to play in already, especially for some hitters. But you look at it, Trey Dombrowski, Jose Fleury, Tyler Guilfoyle, James Hicks, Michael Knorr, Joey Mancini, Jackson Nezu, all paired with Ethan Pecco. It is a pretty good staff. I mean, there's some guys in there that will reach the major leagues, and I think one of those more underrated guys is Joey Mancini. Not a big strikeout guy, but he will eat innings like no one else. You lump Nick Swanson in there. I've got a soft spot for that. He just continues to stick around in this system. It's a really good rotation. It's a bunch of underdogs, a bunch of guys that are kind of flying under the radar. And the one I want to talk about the most is James Hicks, South Carolina kid, pitched to JUCO. The Astros had their eyes on him when he was coming out of that JUCO in Missouri. They let him walk, weren't really going to go after him in the draft. He went to South Carolina and just, I'm kind of surprised. I mean, he was a day 3 pick, and what he's kind of become in this Astros system. I think, he had some arguments to be the pitcher of the year last year as well, just with 115 strikeouts and 106 innings. And he flew up. I mean, he started in Fayetteville, finished in Corpus Christi. ERA really fluctuated once he got up to Corpus Christi, but that happens when you make it up to the Texas League. But I do like it. I mean, he has, every pitch under the sun, it seems. Like if you watch those clips that the Astros player development's posting, it's just filth. That was the one reply I saw too. Someone said it was nasty, and that's just really what he is. I think the changeup is the one that just everyone kind of keeps talking about, and that's probably his best pitch. And that's what I heard from a scout as well.
Yeah, and it's these guys that the Astros are finding that aren't that. You look at, well, we'll talk about a couple of them at the lower levels, but we're not talking about the guys they drafted in a first or second or third round. I mean, we're talking guys that they're finding in, Pecco, the 6th round. He was day 3 pick for James Hicks. And then, you mentioned Joey Mancini, and I want to shout out him real quick because he pitched only in relief in Asheville to start the year. Then he got promoted to Double-A, had good numbers in Asheville, got promoted to Double-A, started 9 of the 18 games that he pitched there. But talking about Ulola being unhittable, and like Mancini was like that. He gave up 54 hits in 76 innings, had a 1.88 ERA. And 76 innings in Double-A. The 30 walks, 68 strikeouts, like the peripherals weren't like these phenomenal peripheral numbers, but didn't give up the hits. Like you mentioned, it was just eating innings. And then the ERA just being that low is just, it's crazy. And yeah, he gets to pitch in Corpus Christi, like you said, is a pretty tough park to hit. But yeah, man, that staff just like you all over. I mean, just, there's other guys on there that we haven't talked about. I mean, the relievers, Alejandro Torres, undrafted a few years ago, Wilmy Sanchez, we saw what he did in spring training. The Astros player development, I posted about him a few times, hitting 97. Just real nasty stuff in relief. So really excited to see what that pitching staff can do. On the hitting side, you mentioned it. They're a little light there. They got a bunch of kind of mid-rounders, like huge top prospects other than Luis Baez. So that's the guy I'm going to shout out on this one as the guy to watch. But we know what he is, big power, right? Your typical right field build, big guy, big power. Made it up to Double-A last year, and his walk to strikeout ratio was not very good in high A. He actually finished really well in Double-A with the walk and strikeouts. I think he had 8 walks to 11 strikeouts in 13 games or however many games he played. So it was a solid ratio. But I'm really excited to see what he can do because he was super young last year anyways. But to get that opportunity to kind of establish himself as, the legit top outfield prospect potentially in the Astros system, and to do it in the upper levels. Really excited to see what he can do this year.
Yeah, he really took a hit just on prospect evaluation too, just with those performances at Double-A. Only played in 14 games, so 644 OPS is what really just kind of stood out. And OPS was dropping in Asheville, which is not really the numbers you want to see when you're in such a hitter-friendly league. It's not just McCormick Field. There's all around there. You have opportunities to just let the ball fly. It's something that, he'll have to come back from. He's coming back from that wrist injury that he had at the end of the year that kind of shut him down for a little bit. Had surgery. The Astros announced he'd be fine. Got to spring training, so now it's just an opportunity to put it all back together. And in a make-or-break league, that's pretty much what the Texas League is for a lot of these hitters. How are you going to adjust to pretty much the best arm talent in the minor leagues right now? And this will be his opportunity to kind of let it fly and see how it goes. Another guy that hit an injury at the end of the year, and he's finally up in Double-A, and I thought he was going to make it last year, is John Garcia. Late pick is one of those things where the Astros kind of get guys late, and he was on day 3, 19th or 20th round, just in that range. And he's really kind of turned it up offensively. He's the first minor league player ever, I believe, I think since like 2006 is how far back the numbers go. But he had 5 doubles in a game. That's never been matched, just according to just the record keeping for minor league baseball. So it's never happened in the major leagues either. But kind of a cool note there. But he had a shoulder injury. They like his arm. Maybe some advantages there just with the athleticism behind the plate. But he's also a pretty decent hitter, and I think he's a little bit of a better hitter than Miguel Palma, who's kind of had some better prospect status over him in recent years.
Yeah, and I think we've seen it with some of these catchers coming through the system. If you can play defense and you can hit a little bit, there's going to be opportunity for you there. Every team's carrying at least 2 catchers. So hopefully he can come to Double-A because, yeah, you're right. He had a nice season in Asheville, which is a hitter's park, but had a nice season there. Arm did well. So excited to see what he can do as he moves up to that upper level now. And he's probably going to be one of the guys that they're leaning on to kind of help produce some runs. Some of the other guys on the Double-A roster, Logan Cerny, we know about the big potential there. Austin Demings, probably a little underrated. Didn't sign for much. Had some pretty good numbers last year. The player development, I posted about him a few times, posting some pretty good exit velocity numbers. Pascal Ferreras, we had on the show, Mr. Irrelevant a couple of years ago. Ryan Johnson, Anthony Sherwin. So like a lot of those college hitters that they've selected kind of at this point. So we'll see what the Hooks can do. But Kenny, we'll move to High A Asheville. Tell me, I'm gonna let you go first. What's the pitcher that you're looking forward to seeing this year?
This is kind of a layup, and this is my chalk pick. I think a lot of people want to see more of him, but too bad you're not going to because High A Asheville still doesn't have cameras. So Anderson Brito, just another one of those bargain pitchers that came out of nowhere in the Astros system. Was a late signee. He signed in November of 2023, which is, when guys sign at that time, you're not really expecting him to make it pretty far just in the minor leagues, especially just in the DSL. But he got it pretty quickly. He pitched in the DSL, FCL, and Single A last season. Didn't even know what this guy looked like to begin with. That was just like something for me. I didn't even know what to expect from him. But he's he's in that 21-year range or 21-year-old range for this season. And that'll be the summer, but 60 grade fastball, 60 grade slider, just a lot of, 60 great pitches that you just want to be excited about. And $10,000 out of Venezuela. And he's one of the top pitching prospects in the Astros system, behind guys like Miguel Uola and maybe AJ Bluebaugh, depending on where you're looking. And I feel like that's the easy pick for me.
Yeah, I think if we know how Dana Brown has kind of operated the Astros system, I don't expect him to be in High A long, especially if he has some quick success. I mean, I could see like maybe a month and a half if he has some success down there, them getting him out of High A. It seems like, I think it was Pascal Ferreras, Mr. Irrelevant had like a month or two in High A before he moved up. Jaron Williams last year, same thing. So if Dana Brown continues that trend, yeah, he won't be there long. Especially if the peripherals look good. But the pitcher that I'm kind of looking forward to seeing is Andrew Taylor, 2nd-round pick a couple years ago, for the comp pick when we lost Carlos Correa. Had some really good numbers at Central Michigan. What I found interesting, his first year in the system, he was fully healthy. ERA was a little bit high, but had really good strikeout numbers, and literally the exact same strikeout numbers he had in college. So his junior in college, 84 innings, 126 strikeouts. His first full season in the minors, 84 innings, 126 strikeouts. Obviously, gave up a few more hits. ERA was a little bit higher, but he kind of showed that potential that you wanted. He was a young draftee, anyways. He was 21. Well, last year ended up getting hurt. I just talked with him just a couple of days ago. I'll be posting an article tomorrow morning about it. But I just had some discomfort that kind of came up that he also had in college. And it kind of appeared last spring training, got better, went and made pitched in 5 games in Asheville, and unfortunately it didn't go away. So they ended up shelving him for the rest of the year. But he's back. He's healthy now. Said he might be about a week or 2 behind. So maybe see him in mid-April. But just, another pitcher that the Astros drafted high that we really haven't seen the promise from. The potential was there. He's got the stuff. He's got the size. Not going to blow you away, but he's another guy that kind of has the invisible fastball, given that he's like 6'5", real long arms, 6'5", 190 pounds. But just hoping to see him healthy and kind of just like you mentioned with Anderson Brito is that he can have success quickly and then maybe find himself up in Double-A.
Yeah, just make that Corpus Christi rotation even deeper. And they're going to be having to do a lot of tandems there, it seems like. And guys are, 50-50 on if they like those or not. But with Andrew Taylor, too, he was a little bit younger, too, when he was drafted. I think he was a sophomore eligible pitcher. So he was in that 20 to 21-year-old range. So that's still good for the Astros. Even though you lost a year of him, lost a season of him, you saw that in your back pocket that he's not too much older than some of these other pitchers that are in in high A at the moment. Position player wise, this one might be a little bit easy or a little chalky too, but he was a day 2 pick for the Astros last year. And it's Joseph Sullivan, freak athlete. The Astros were surprised he landed where he was. He was in the 7th round when the Astros took him. And, coming from South Alabama, just the athleticism off the charts as an outfielder. They like the bat. He gets plunked a lot too. Like he just has really good discipline, but he might crowd the plate a little bit too much. So he might be in like that Craig Biggio conversation of the minor leagues, just on how many times he got hit by pitches last year. But he's the grandson of Pat Sullivan, the former Heisman winner. So he has a long background or deep background, rich history in athletics and just sports in general. But the Astros like everything about him. And he's bringing a lot to the table, just tools wise. I don't think anything really jumps off the page, maybe just running wise, but everything is solid or above with him. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing as Joseph Sullivan flies up the rankings.
Yeah, he was kind of there for one of my potential breakout prospects, going into the season. But you mentioned, great makeup, loves the weight room, great energy, plays with a passion on the field. I think he's going to be a really fun guy to watch. And we've seen what some of these hitters can do in Nashville. So super excited to see what he can do. My hitter that I'm looking forward to watching is a guy who's going to be a repeat in Nashville, Cam Fisher. The Astros drafted him a couple of years ago in the 4th round, had ridiculous college numbers, 30 homers, 64 walks in 64 games. So we knew strikeouts might have been a little bit of a concern, but he had ridiculous power, and you hope that would make up for it. And I think he started out the season okay, like had a decent April, and then he just kind of fell off. And he ended up getting ended up getting demoted down to rookie league to kind of find some things, and still struggle with the strikeouts there. But overall in Asheville, in 58 games, he struck out 102 times. He did have 12 homers. So his OPS overall was still like over 700. But it's going to be a contact thing for him. If he can make some more contact, he's got the power, he's got the athleticism, the speed as well. And they drafted him in the 4th round. There were some other players that me and Kenny always talk about that were around that area. But I think Cam Fisher has that talent that you kind of look for when you're in the 4th round. He's got a tool that really stood out, and that was that big time power. Unfortunately, he just didn't make enough contact last year, but starting back in Nashville. So we'll see how it shakes out for him.
It was speed too. Like he seemed quick for that size and what he was doing at Charlotte, just with that body type and nice lefty swing. It's the dreaded death list. That's where he went to, Jimmy. And that was, people always talk about Corey Julks a couple years ago when he went down to the spring training complex in Florida and fixed everything when he was at the hooks. And, it just really didn't even work out too much for Cam Fisher when he did that. And I'm going to say it. I mean, the pick after him was Christian Campbell, who's a top 100 prospect now and made his major league debut this past week with the Red Sox.
Prospect in baseball.
Yeah. So top 10. Like he's just kind of flown up the rankings, and, it's always the what if, hindsight's 2020. But it's, you kind of just look at it as like a reset for Cam Fisher this year. And I think that's the best thing you can do. Staying in North Carolina though, Jimmy, tell me about the Woodpeckers.
So it's another pitcher who was a high pick who had some injuries last year. Alonzo Treadwell, another. I don't know what it is with the Astros and big pitchers. Man, we've chosen like all the big pitchers. 6'8", 245. So if the Rockets are in need of a backup power forward or maybe even tight end, Treadwell's the guy. Monster human being, 2nd round pick in 23. Last year came in, didn't pitch a lot at UCLA, didn't pitch following the draft. Then last year came in and made 17 or pitched in 17 games, only pitched 57 innings. ERA was up a little bit, had some strikeout numbers, but just not kind of what you expected from a 2nd round pick. But hopefully everything's good. He's healthy now, starting out in Fayetteville again, which will be a good opportunity for him down there. And just really excited to see him pitch. And I hope he can kind of find what caused him to be that high pick. He was a reliever his 2nd year in college, pitched as a starter his junior year, and then the Astros drafted him. And like I mentioned, you got Andrew Taylor, 2nd round pick, you got Treadwell, 2nd round pick, and then you got guys like Hunter Brown and Arrighetti and Pecco who are later round picks, and they're doing their thing. So it'd be awesome to see Taylor and Alonzo Treadwell find their groove this year as 2nd round picks.
Yeah, the Astros haven't had much success with guys that are taken in the 2nd round or they're just the 2nd pick overall. I mean, you look at Jacob Melton too, lost a lot of power last year, battled some injuries. It was a high school reliever. This was way before I even really took coverage over, but is it Jackson Shaver? He was with the Woodpeckers for a long time, and it just really never worked out for him. It's it's just a trend. It's not necessarily like the Astros just are swinging and missing at second round picks. It's kind of it is a weird area because there's a lot of guys that are in there that you're maybe throwing a little bit more money at to sign them on day one, or you're kind of just throwing darts to see if you can get the best guy you can. With Alonso too, right before that injury, he was pitching well. I'm looking back at some of these outings. In his last outing, he only got one out, but a handful of strikeouts in those games, and it looked like things were on the upswing before that injury. And he battled a lot of back issues too. Just for a guy that size, it's kind of a red flag just with if he can handle those kind of moving forward. But pitching wise for me, I'm going to stick with a guy maybe a lot of people don't know, and that's Anthony Cruz. Probably a name that just no one knows just in the Astros system. But I brought this up last show, but I was looking back at some guys on these rosters that I remember signing with and reaching out to, like right when they announced their signings, and just another kind of bargain bin pitcher. He's 22 years old. He's going to be in single A, but in rookie ball last year, he struck out 38 guys in 33 innings, posted a 2.18 ERA. Not really going to look at that. The thing that jumped off the page at me, and of course, FCL, rookie ball, not going to take too much stock, 0.82 whip. And that's the thing that just really jumped out to me. He's 22, like I said, he's had 3 years in rookie ball, 2 in the DSL, 1 in the FCL. I think it's, an opportunity for him to kind of put it all together. And this is like, guys like his age, 22 years old, international guy, didn't sign for too much money. You don't really have the longest leash, but I think for a guy like him, there is a lot of promise just with not letting guys reach base. Last season too, he only walked 10 guys at 38 strikeouts. That's a very good sign. And the number kept getting knocked down as he moved up through rookie ball. And I like Anthony Cruz. I think that's definitely a name to watch.
Yeah, and I know it wasn't a huge sample size, but we saw a lot of pitchers, especially in Fayetteville last year, had a lot of issues with their command and walking too many guys. So to see the 10 walks in rookie ball was huge for Cruz. On the hitting side, I'm looking at Caden Powell, 5th round pick. Astros signed him over slot, had ridiculous numbers. I think he hit 504 at junior college. I don't know, was it 30 homers or something? Just insane, like video game numbers. What you would do in MLB The Show on a rookie level. After the draft, the Astros put him in single A, had a couple good games, had some strikeouts, but was super young as well. So really excited to see what he can do given a full off season in the Astros system, and now making that full season debut with Fayetteville.
Yeah, he's one that, kind of fell in that region of, is he going to, you have to go over slot. 'Cause I think he was committed to Oklahoma or Oklahoma State. He's one of those JUCO guys that he played at a very prestigious JUCO too. So you got to be excited just about Caden Powell. I think he the one that just came out of just hitting home runs like left and right. His
first 2 games were like
monster. I don't think he walked or took any pitches there for maybe 2 weeks. So that also be something that eases into just not being so swing happy and excited about being a pro baseball player. But he does fall into that Jim Stevenson area that I've talked about. He's one of the longest tenured scouts in the Astros system. He's been through multiple GMs now, so it kind of picks him out and kind of goes over slots, so they don't have to worry about him choosing college. But offensively, a position player wise for me is Joncel Villarreal, another guy that's kind of flying under the radar a little bit for the Astros, just because he's very intriguing. He's 5'8", 176 pounds, and he plays catcher. But there's also a future at first base or center field. Like, I really don't know where Joncel Villarreal will play next season or just even beyond this year. Numbers don't really jump off the page to you just overall last year, but he did play in 22 games in the FCL, and he hit well. I mean, 284 average, 893 OPS, and then when there was kind of a herd of new guys moving up to Fayetteville, he was one of the guys that came up, and numbers dropped a little bit offensively, and strikeout numbers went up, but that kind of just happens with time. But he's very intriguing just defensively wise, and I know I've pointed out some of those guys already, but the tools aren't really off the charts, but he just seems like a scrappy player just with that size.
Yeah, and the Astros, we've talked about it on here a little bit. It's been a while since they've kind of hit on I don't even know if a while is the right. I mean, when you look at the international bats, they haven't had a lot of success, and you can point to a guy like Yordan Alvarez, but they didn't sign him. They traded for him, obviously got him from the Dodgers. They haven't had a ton of success there. So yeah, getting a guy like Villarreal and getting that opportunity at 19 in single A, I think is big. He's gonna be 20 years old this year, so he's easily still playing, up in the level of his age. But yeah, the versatility for a guy like that, and what really stood out to me in the FCL and the DSL is he drew a lot of walks and didn't strike out a lot. And that didn't completely transfer over in single A. But like you mentioned, he was a teenager when he got that opportunity. So, yeah, that's a good one to watch, and maybe a guy that can break out. But as we talk about potential breakouts, I wanted for me and you to give what we think our potential breakout one is going to be this year. And it's a name I keep repeating, and hopefully it doesn't let me down, I guess. But Chase Jaworski, that's my breakout guy. Pitched last year at 19, hit really well in Fayetteville for a teenager. And Fayetteville's not the best place to hit. I mean, just go look at the overall team numbers. I mean, it's not. There's no one putting up ridiculous numbers in the Carolina League. But Jaworski, he gets on base. He drew 29 walks, had 15 hit by pitches in 78 games, stole 28 bases, has more doubles power than anything, had 20 doubles. But he was, like you mentioned him, he looks young. He was 19 last year. Hopefully he can develop into some power, but kind of a spark plug kind of guy. Steals a lot of bases, like I said, get hits by pitch, finds ways to get on. Solid defense up the middle. Just really excited to see what he can do in Asheville, which is a good hitter's park. Another year of maturity, another year of adding weight, being in the Astros system, and that's my pick for potential breakout guy.
Above average speed, like well above average. Just that speed tool is going to get him places defensively, offensively. Broken finger really kind of halted some of those big expectations there in the second half for Fayetteville, and it seemed like everything was going to get put together just offensively, because I don't think you really have to worry too much about him as a defender, just with what he can do at shortstop. And I think I brought it up before, maybe there is a world where he looks at center field too, just with that versatility and the athleticism he brings. So guy that they had to go over slot for back in 2023 in the 5th round. He was, this will be a fun trivia question one day. He was committed to Utah Valley State, which is, not something necessarily know, but the Astros went into a place they're not really as familiar with Colorado, and they pulled Chase out of there. And I think that's a good pick. Jimmy, for mine, for my potential breakout, and this one is another name people probably don't know too much about, but it's Bryce Mayer. I'm not picking it just because we went to the same university.
That's exactly why you're picking him.
But day 3 pick last year, 16th round for the Astros. And with Bryce too, like what I've heard is like just a revelation. That's the exact word I heard just when someone was telling me about just him in the Astros system. He is 23. He's going to be pitching in Fayetteville to start the year, but made 3 appearances last year, 6 and 3 innings, 10 strikeouts, 4 walks. I mean, those are decent numbers. The whip, it's just such a small sample size. You can't really overlook or just, overanalyze anything. But from what I've heard, just, behind closed doors, is they like Bryce Mayer and they think he's going to work out. I think he's probably bound to be a reliever, but you're going to hold a guy as a starter for as long as you can. And he went to a fine university.
Some of those guys come out of nowhere. James Hicks was another guy that was 23 last year and had put up ridiculous numbers in single A and made it up to double A. Maybe Mayer can be like that. But yeah, sure. I mean, I know why. We all know why you picked him, Kenny. That's all right. You gotta protect your own. I get it.
Before we get to this last segment too, the guy I was mentioning was Jason Schroeder, who seemed like he was a right-hand pitcher. He just never really got out of single A, and he seemed like he had a lot of promise. Second rounder in 2018.
Yeah, and I hate to knock on a guy. I mean, he got his money and he got to play. But I'm gonna look it up because I know his last year, his minors his numbers are pretty insane. Okay, yeah, in 27 innings in Fayetteville, he walked 61. So I don't know what happened to the guy. I mean, his numbers weren't always the walks were always high, but I've never seen something like that. He had 22 wild pitches, walked 61 in 27 innings. I've never seen anything like that. But anyways, yeah, that was another second round pick that didn't work out. But we'll go to actually, it's going to end up being another top pick. We're about to see what's going to happen. So the next one we're doing is our make or break season. We're going to talk about a couple guys here that are maybe have had the high potential. They've been in the system a little bit longer, and this is going to be a year for them to make or break. And not to say that if they don't have success, they're released or something like that. But really, it's an opportunity for them to kind of make their prospect status. And the one I want to talk about is Alex Santos, another second round pick, 2020 COVID year out of New York. I believe he was the Garrett Cole comp pick that we got after Garrett Cole walked in 19, and he went into single A at 19 years old, had a 3.46 ERA and 41 innings. And you're like, okay, this guy's got it, man. He had a good good season, and then he repeated single A and really struggled. 82 innings, 5.99 ERA. gave up 74 hits, walks went up just a tad, gave up 15 home runs. Next year, he goes to Asheville, tough place to pitch, 6.94 ERA, 17 homers, walked 64 in 83 innings. And then last year, he went to Double-A, so he's still kind of steady rise and had some rough numbers there too. Ended up missing a lot of the season because he was injured. But the Astros did send him to the Arizona Fall League, and that's where that's like our first kind of glimmer of success we've seen him had in a while. And he pitched really well in the Arizona Fall League. We know that's really good competition, but in 17 innings, he struck out 26, walked only 7, was with the Astros in spring training. Just only pitched 1 inning. It was a scoreless inning, but he's 22 years old, or going to be 23 years old this year. Actually, just turned 23. So it's his 23-year-old season back in Double-A. But we saw, I think he's seen an uptick in his stuff and his velocity recently. I don't remember what he was in the Arizona Fall League. I don't know if he was getting up to that mid to high 90s like he was around the draft time, maybe even up to like 97. But he's got the stuff to succeed. He's finally healthy. He showed it in the Arizona Fall League. So this is going to be a good opportunity for him to kind of, like I said, make that prospect status.
He was a Fall Star, which is the equivalent of the All-Star game. He started the Fall Stars game, which maybe that's just kind of how the pitching lined up for that week. But that's what got him into big league camp this year. That's exactly what he needed. He's kind of receiving a little bit more buzz too, just with him just being a high schooler and now 23 years old. It feels like it's just been forever since he was drafted. And you look back at that draft, Jimmy, I think he's the last guy. Him and Shea Whitcomb are the last ones from that 2020 draft. Shea Whitcomb was Mr. Irrelevant. He's made it up to the majors. And I think it's just left to him as one of the guys that's still in the Astros system. So, it's all kind of all systems go. I think, if it works out in the Texas League this year, then I think you see him at some point in the major leagues. I think, if he gets through that, gets up to AAA, I'm not saying he's going to be an all-star pitcher or just like this guy who's going to anchor rotation, but he is definitely going to be a guy that can probably eat innings at some point. My guy too is a pitcher. This one he's a little bit younger, and it's hard to say make or break for a 21-year-old.
Right.
But Elimber Santa, we've been talking about forever. You go back to his 2021 season, people were talking about him on the backfields. He really just never matriculated into anything big. Like, he kind of was like, I'll tag, I'll say revelation. Like, he was one of those guys where you saw all of it coming together just in the backfields, throwing high 90s, and the guy looked strong. And he faced a couple of injuries. I think he also got injured in like his final game of the 2022 season, or 23 season. So just a lot of things compounding. And he skipped high A last year. They just pushed him up to Double-A, and it just didn't work. 9.14 ERA in 21 2/3 innings, 18 strikeouts at 20 walks. The guy just didn't have it. He's fallen off prospect list. He's kind of lost his status, but he's still a guy with a lot of pitches and a lot of finesse behind him. I think, this is one of those years where he goes back healthy to Double-A, and if he can turn things around, then that's probably the best case scenario for the Astros.
Yeah, and I think the two pitchers we just mentioned are guys that have a very high potential, but just have yet to kind of show that at the higher level. So really good opportunity for Santa and Santos. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Appreciate y'all listening. Looking forward to a great minor league year. The Sugarland's already gotten started. The next 3 start on April 4th. But if you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Leave us a review. Let us know what we can do better or what we have been doing well. As always, thank you so much for listening, and we look forward to having you back for our next episode of the AstrosFuture podcast covering your Astros and the minor league system.